She told me I was too old for this company, that my experience didn't matter anymore. And just like that, after 27 years, I was fired. No warning, no thank you, just a pink slip and a smug smile from a 28-year-old with a shiny MBA and zero people skills. But here's the thing, I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I shook her hand, smiled politely, and walked out. 3 months later, I walked back in, not as an employee, as her new boss. Let me tell you exactly how that happened. I still remember that Thursday morning like it was yesterday. I'd just poured myself a cup of coffee in the break room, the cheap kind that tastes like burnt cardboard, when Marissa walked in with her heels clicking like gunshots. She didn't even look at me, just said, "Ray, can you come to HR for a minute?" Now listen, I'm not stupid. I'd been working at Dunhill Tech for 27 years. That HR meeting tone, I knew what it meant. Still, I followed her, mug in hand, because I'm a professional, or at least I was. We sat down, and there was some HR guy, probably fresh out of college, sweating through his shirt. Marissa crossed her legs, smiled like this wasn't a firing, but some casual coffee chat. "Ray," she said, "we're restructuring, and unfortunately, some roles have become redundant." I nodded. Redundant. That's a fancy word for you're too old and we want you gone, huh? She blinked, surprised I said it out loud. But let's not kid ourselves. Everyone was thinking it. I was 61. Most of the team was under 35. I trained half of them, including Marissa, by the way. She was my intern 10 years ago. Now she was VP. I want you to know this has nothing to do with your performance, she said. Of course not, I smiled. Just my birth year. I didn't make a scene. I signed the paperwork, packed up my office in a cardboard box, and walked out the same way I walked in 27 years ago, quietly but inside. Oh, I was boiling. I got home, sat on the porch with my wife, and told her everything. She didn't say much, just handed me a beer and said, "Well, what now?" That night I couldn't sleep. Not out of sadness, but from something else. A fire dot. Not the angry throw things kind. The calm, focused, cold kind. The kind that plans. Because here's the thing Marissa didn't know. While I'd been working at Dunhill, I wasn't just answering emails and mentoring interns. I'd been quietly building something. Certifications, industry connections, even an executive leadership certificate I took online at night. No one ever asked. I never told. I didn't just want a new job. I wanted her job, and I knew exactly how to get it. First thing I did that Friday morning, I shaved, not because I needed to, but because I needed to feel like myself again, not some discarded office relic. I threw on a clean shirt, sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop, and opened my contacts list. I wasn't calling recruiters. I was calling friends, old colleagues, clients, vendors, people who still remembered me, not the age on my resume. By noon, I had 5 coffee meetings lined up, 2 Zoom calls, 1 dinner with a guy who once told me, "If you ever leave Dunhill, call me first." And I did. Over the next few weeks, I kept it quiet. I didn't rant on LinkedIn or write angry blog posts about ageism. I didn't need to. I had a plan, and it was working. What most people forget is that revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, the best revenge is sitting across from someone who thought they buried you and smiling while you sign the paperwork that proves otherwise. By the third week, I was consulting. By the fifth, I was leading a digital transformation project for a startup that was eating companies like Dunhill alive. And by the end of month 2, I had an offer. A big one, but I turned it down because something better was coming. Here's where it gets good. One of my old clients, huge defense contractor, called me up and said, "Ray, we're acquiring a mid-sized tech firm. They've got decent products but no leadership. You interested in a turnaround role?" I asked for the name of the company. He said, "Dunhill Tech." I didn't even blink. I said, "When do we start?" They brought me in as an interim consultant at first, just to observe, give a report on structure, workflow, leadership quality, or lack thereof. I was basically sent in to evaluate the very people who thought I was too old to be useful. The irony. I walked in the front doors 3 months after they fired me, not as an employee, but as the guy who could decide who stayed and who didn't. Marissa saw me and turned ghost white. "Ray?" she asked, frozen in the hallway. I smiled. "Afternoon. I'm here to help assess the team. Heard there's been some restructuring." She stuttered something about not being informed. I shrugged. "That's above your pay grade now, I guess." That week was delicious. I sat in on meetings where people tried to explain things I had created. They stumbled over acronyms, tried to dress up poor decisions with buzzwords, and pretended to lead while chaos brewed beneath. And the best part, Marissa cracked. She knew I was evaluating her. She knew the company had a choice to make, and I was the one holding the pen. Spent the first 2 weeks back at Dunhill, doing exactly what they paid me for. Observing on the surface, everything looked clean. New branding, polished reports, nice PowerPoint decks with bold mission statements and hollow vision goals. But under the hood, it was a circus. Teams were misaligned. Deadlines were being missed. The product roadmap was a joke. Junior developers were running meetings while directors scrolled through their phones, and leadership. That was the real disaster. I sat through one leadership meeting where Marissa spent 20 minutes talking about synergy and digital alignment, while completely ignoring a massive drop in client retention. She was all show, no substance. Just like the first time I trained her, years ago. Except now, the stakes were higher. And this time, I was taking notes after 2 weeks. I submitted a comprehensive report to the board of the parent company, the one that had just acquired Dunhill. It was 37 pages long. Included charts, names, evidence. At the end of the report was a simple recommendation. For Dunhill to survive this transition, immediate executive restructuring is required. Leadership should reflect industry experience, crisis navigation, skills and strategic clarity, none of which are currently present in the VP of Operations role. I didn't name Marissa directly. I didn't have to. The next day, I was invited to a meeting with the board. The tone was clear. They were impressed. They wanted me to stay, not as a consultant, but as the new Chief Operations Officer. I didn't say yes right away. I waited. I let it breathe. Then I said, "I'll accept under one condition." I picked my own team, from scratch. They agreed. No questions asked. 2 days later, Marissa was called in and politely asked to step down in light of the company's new direction. I wasn't in the room. I didn't need to be, but she saw me later in the hallway and said, "You planned this." And I said, "No, you planned this. You just didn't know it was for me." She didn't respond, just walked away, heels slower than before. The next few weeks were surreal. I moved into the office that used to be hers. I rehired 2 of the best engineers she'd let go. I replaced 3 department heads with people who actually knew what they were doing. And I watched the company slowly, painfully stabilized. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it, because every time I walked past that empty office where she used to sit, I remembered what she said when she fired me. We're looking for fresh perspectives. And I'd smile, because nothing is fresher than a 61-year-old man rebuilding a company from the ruins you left behind. Some people think revenge is about getting even, about making someone hurt the way they hurt you. But standing there in my new office, looking out at the team I rebuilt, the systems I cleaned up, the company I helped rescue, I realized something. This wasn't revenge. This was justice, and the best part, I didn't have to scream, didn't have to threaten anyone, didn't burn a single bridge. I just showed up, quietly, and did the one thing nobody expected me to do. I won. A week after I officially became Coup, I got an email, subject line, lunch. It was from Marissa. I'll admit, I hovered over the delete button, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a little restaurant 2 blocks from the office, the same one we used to go to as co-workers, back when she was still just the intern who talks too fast. She looked different, not worse, just heavier somehow, like the weight of the fall hadn't fully left her shoulders. I owe you an apology, she said as soon as we sat down. I said nothing, just waited. She exhaled. I thought I had to prove myself, that being young and ambitious meant pushing people out of the way. I didn't see what you were really doing, what you were holding together all those years. I nodded. That's the thing about support beams. People only notice them when the ceiling collapses. She laughed, a short, bitter kind of laugh. I didn't mean to make it personal, she added. But it was, I said. You didn't fire a title, you fired a man, one who built half the things you were managing. She looked down at her drink. I guess I deserved what happened. That was the part where I was supposed to gloat, say something slick, something cold, but I didn't. I said, maybe, but you're not the only one who learned something. She looked up. I let people think I was done, that I'd peaked. I stopped raising my hand, stopped dreaming bigger. You just reminded me what I'm still capable of. She smiled, a little sad. You planning to stay there forever? She asked. I shrugged, long enough to make sure the next Marissa knows what respect looks like. Months passed. The company recovered. I traveled, spoke at conferences, wrote a few articles, nothing flashy, just advice, lessons, things I wish someone had told me when I was 40. You know what was wild? I started getting calls from execs, HR leads, startups, asking me to mentor, to consult, to teach. Turns out, experience does matter. You just have to remind people sometimes. One Friday afternoon, I was packing up to leave early, rare treat for myself, when a junior employee knocked on my door. She said, "Hey, Mr. Dalton, I just wanted to say, you're the reason I stayed. You actually listen, and you care, so thanks." She turned to leave, and I smiled. "Call me Ray," I said. "I'm just another old guy trying to help." But inside, I felt 10 feet tall. Because in the end, the real win wasn't firing back. It was proving to her, to the company, and honestly, to myself, that I still had it, and that maybe, just maybe, I was never too old. They were just too blind to see me.